Supervisor Locke with the invocation.
We seek your help with decisions tonight. Bless this meeting with your divine intelligence and help us to make the best use of our own. Thank you for being our source of guidance. Amen.
Amen. You have to turn them center lights off. That center, you can't see none of that. Supervisor Robel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move for the approval of this evening's agenda.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on anything on the agenda this evening? Now is your time to talk. Yes, would you come up to the mic there and state your name and address?
Right here.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Zadrali. I live at 1351 Silverwood Lane in the village of Fox Crossing. And I'm speaking tonight about the item on the agenda, which is Resolution 260-032-018, declaring April of this month to be National County Government Month in Winnebago County. I think county government, what you represent, is very important. It serves the public. I'm a member of the public, and as a result, you are public servants. And I really do believe that everyone in this room wants to serve the public in the best way you can. That's why I want to ask that you consider changing the way that you've designed the open forum of these meetings. I think that requiring that the person speaking speak only to an item that's on the agenda does a disservice to the public in two ways. One, many people aren't aware of what the agenda items are. They don't necessarily look them up on the internet, so they really don't know what's going to be presented that evening. And number two, I think the process of getting an item on the agenda so that they could speak about it, I think most people probably don't even know how do you do that? How do you get an item on the agenda if you're just a kind of a normal person, you know, at the county board? And I think thirdly, I think it hinders you because it keeps you from hearing totally and in a timely manner the concerns and issues of your constituents. So that's why I'm requesting that perhaps one of the members of the board here make a motion and that everyone endorse the fact that anybody in the public can speak at an open forum about any issue which falls within the board's scope of authority. I think to conclude, I just say that I think communicating with the board here should be as user-friendly as possible. It should invite people and encourage people to speak. So I think the public forum can be better if more of the public can have easier access to the county board. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on anything on the agenda this evening? Now is your chance. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on anything on the agenda this evening? That portion of the meeting will be closed. Pardon? Some of you haven't punched in on your iPad. Would you please punch in? Resolutions from other counties from the clerk.
First of all, we have a notice of claim from the Wisconsin Public Service for damage to a power box caused by a county lawnmower. The claim will be forwarded to the Personnel and Finance Committee. And then we have the resolutions from the other counties as listed on the agenda. the one from Adams County regarding a resolution to urge creation of a nonpartisan procedure for the preparation of legislative and congressional redistricting plans, referred to the Legislative Committee. Racine County's resolution in regards to Senate Bill 777 and Assembly Bill 923. This is also referred to the Legislative Committee. And then a resolution from the, also Racine County, and I believe that's the same one, where they're expressing their opposition to those two pieces of legislation. And that is all.
Okay. County Executive Report. Oh, I'm sorry. You can stay right there. Reports from committees, commissions, and boards. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On Thursday, March 15th, I attended the Winnebago County Drug and Alcohol Coalition Government Agencies Community Conversation at the Coghlan Center. The Winnebago County Drug and Alcohol Coalition is a group of public and private members whose mission is to prevent and reduce drug and alcohol use by empowering our community to effect individual and social change through education, advocacy, collaboration, and coordination of resources. This was the second of 11 meetings to share how drugs impact our community. While we didn't solve the problem, we aided in weaving a collective wisdom that is gathering momentum. The conversation was led by Carrie Cabasta of Theta Care Behavioral Health, aided by Stephanie Gildenvand of our County Health Department, and Department Director Doug Gyron was present. I can share with you a handful of flyers with the tour schedule, and I've got them here. I will give them to the clerk, and those members of the board that would like to have a copy can get one from the clerk.
Thank you. Supervisor Finch.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, while I was away, I was watching the county board meeting on the iPad, and I was very impressed with Supervisor Powers when she discussed about the scholarship programs that Winnebago County has. How she took the time and the effort to write letters and go and talk to people, and I would like the county board to know that when it was first started, that's what we used to do. We used to go and talk to the schools and talk to the people and send out some letters. So anyway, I'd like to just say thank you to Supervisor Powers for taking the extra effort to work on our scholarship program to get it out to more people. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. Just in case some of you didn't get your mail, we will not be having a legislative meeting this month. I thought about having one because we had some of the legislators that were going to come that hadn't been there for a while. But with the Rethink program coming up here this next month, that'll be invited to all the everyone to go. So hopefully you'll all come to that program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On Monday, February 26th, I participated or viewed a webinar that WCA had on job description and compensation. It's still on the WCA website. I think especially the personal finance committee members and anyone should watch that. Had a lot of interesting views and ideals about how to evaluate employees and the compensation for employees. It's not just tied to salary. The second thing I want to report on is I went to the NACO Legislative Conference along with Supervisor Snyder, Keller, and Launschlager. You have a more detailed report in your packet, but I'll give you a few highlights. The NACO Legislative Conference, we're pushing a couple things. The Secretary of Transportation came to one of the general sessions, and I'll leave a copy with the clerk, and presented the President's Initiative for Rebuilding Infrastructure in America. But as one of the lobbyists who for Outagamie County said, it's a lot of fluff, but not many answers, so I'll leave that with you. We were also, me and Supervisor Launschlager met with Congresswoman Moore and Congressman Pocan and Grothman, and we encourage them to continue funding for the social services block grant as well as the community services block grant. It seemed like they all were in agreement. I'm waiting to see that happens. And interesting conversation we had with Glenn Grothman, we could tell you at some time. Other things that are going on, we also found out, I didn't know, that April next month, and as you can tell by the resolution we have later, is National County Government Month. And I think there are a number of activities we can do, maybe next year, but in this year there are some activities that are already planned. The health department are going to have 2 open houses to go through their facilities. One will be in Oshkosh, one from 9 a.m. to noon on Monday, April 2nd. And then in Neenah, they will be going from Thursday, April 5th. Again, that's from 9 a.m. to noon. You can tour those facilities. I was at the Hooper facility building in Oshkosh, and I think I saw the Veteran Services are having some type of open house. I want to say April 16th to 18th. I don't know exact time. That's a couple more things that I want to wrap up. I hope all you got your invitation. I hope that you keep Friday, April 27th, 2018 open. That's when Rethink will have their annual legislative breakfast. It will be from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. and it will be held at the Myron Construction Wensler Center in room 2. It's always informative, and I think we all like to listen and hear feedback from our policymakers, whether it's county or city or county or government, whatever. And last, but not least, and I'm going to include this, is you know, I'm on the HRC committee, and last year we had a very successful Winnebago County wheelchair wash. Please take it down, Mr. County Executive, because you're one of the celebrities we had. Well, this year we're going to have 2. And Sue Ertmer emailed you all a copy, so you can have a copy of the flyer. But it's going to be, and you'll probably hear from me for once or twice before, but it's going to be Friday, June 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Oshkosh North High School West Parking Lot, which is on West Smith Avenue in Oshkosh. We are always looking for volunteers, especially, and we can show you celebrities to help wash. Supervisor Launschlager graciously cooks the free meal that people come get, and you'll get if you volunteer. And like I say, we're having 2 this year. We also will have another wheelchair wash in September, I believe, on Saturday at Bergstrom's. I don't know exact date and time, but we'll keep you informed. So that's my full report for this month. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to announce that tomorrow, March 21st, is World Down Syndrome Day, and I encourage every supervisor to learn one new thing you didn't know before about Down syndrome. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since this is my last meeting, I feel obligated to mention something that will be coming down the pike. I won't be here. From Facilities and Property Management. If you have been here long enough and you recall, we allocated approximately $6.6 million to move people, employees, out of this building to the Otter Street Administration Building and move people into here from across the street. That's my understanding is that $6.6 million is gone. Of that, there was approximately $462,000 in contingency. That's gone, and facilities will be asking for an additional $150,000. Just so you're aware, it's coming down the pike. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To piggyback on Vice Chairman Rowe's comments regarding our facilities meeting last Wednesday, there was an amendment to that $150,000 resolution, which was simply to decrease that figure to $50,000, which would keep the project going if there was an overrun. And, you know, the threat is always, if we don't allocate any money, that the project will stop and it will cost the contractor X amount more dollars and the project becomes incrementally more expensive. So the resolution was to decrease the $150,000 asked for to $50,000. The thought process being those people who would be coming in as new supervisors for the next 2 years would then have to learn about the project in its entirety. And I thought it was very important to propose that resolution just so that not just the new faces that will be here in April, but those people who may not have been around when the $6.6 million was allocated could really either learn or refresh their memories about the project in its totality and just understand that what one board does get handed down to the next board and then to the next board and to the next board. So thank you for that. Also at our facilities meeting, we did have somebody come and speak in public comments. And those comments were maybe not necessarily directed entirely at the facilities committee, but this individual felt it necessary that his voice get heard. This individual was concerned about some letters that he had been writing back and forth to the State Board of Aeronautics regarding property on the airport, which is maintained by the county, that the county is not receiving any rental money from and has not been for, I believe, the previous 9 years. There's a letter that I'm holding, and I believe it was also addressed at the personnel meeting during your last meeting. And the letter states that there needs to be corrective action taken on any leases. I just quote directly from this letter, "A corrective action plan which details the proposed corrective actions and provides a reasonable timeline for completion is requested by April 30th, 2018. And if there are no corrective actions taken, one other line in this letter stipulates that failure to take the corrective actions identified above could affect the airport's eligibility to receive future funding. The corrective actions are outlined in the letter, so it's pretty black and white. It was sent to outgoing airport director Peter Moll, and hopefully will be addressed in a very timely fashion by the new airport director. I find it just interesting that over my years 8 years only on this board, that it seems to me that there has always needed to be somebody from the outside of the airport, outside of the aviation committee, who has researched and found some of these issues regarding the airport and some of the things that have gone on out there. I even understand that this was asked to be an agenda item at the next aviation committee meeting, and not sure as to the conversation I had with this individual that the current chairman of the aviation committee feels it necessary to even put this item on the agenda. With that said, Mr. Chairman, I hope that the next board and the next county board chairman will help address these issues by redesigning and redistributing those committee assignments, and whoever is the next county board chairman will also attend some of those committee meetings so that the behavior, or I'm struggling for the correct word, but just so that the chairman can be accountable and responsible for the committees that he creates. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also attended the NACO convention, as Mike noted.
You have to talk into your mic.
During the convention, I attended 2 training sessions on performance metrics, as well as one on economic development. The first session was entitled Building Trust Using Performance Metrics in Counties. The session was presented by county executives who have initiated their metrics in their counties. These are counties that chose to define, create, and track their own data and metrics. They talked about what they learned and what improvements they made as a result of tracking the data. I have more information for anyone that wants the information. The second session was entitled Federal Tools for County-Driven International Economic Development. It was a roundtable discussion by heads of various federal agencies that assist counties and local businesses that want to participate in exporting products, as well as the promotion of foreign investment within the U.S. It seemed to me the greatest value was in the vetting of the local businesses and the foreign market, as well as the foreign contacts that the agency would be able to provide. I have their contact information for those interested. The third session was a workshop on the use of a national database which allows anyone, supervisors, department directors, or residents to compare their county's programs and outcomes to other counties. The database is called County Explorer. It can be found at naco.org under Resources. Counties can compare themselves in up to 10 indicators at a time, including comparisons to other counties by name, other counties of similar size, and counties within the state, or by a median of 3,069 counties in the nation. On your desk, you will find the promotional page describing the database. It has an email address where you can ask questions and get help. I did a comparison chart for Winnebago County. That chart should also be on your desk. On that chart, I compared Winnebago County to a nationwide database and to Wisconsin counties in 9 different indicators. There are 850 indicators. The indicators could also be compared to selected individual counties. The website has a short tutorial that gives you what you need to know to use the database. You do need high-speed internet to use it because it can load slow. I think it's a great tool and intend to utilize it to help me understand how our county compares. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too attended the NACO Legislative Conference. I won't go into any further detail about committee meetings. I did attend my committee meeting. I'm vice chair of the Veterans and Military Service Committee. But on Monday, after the general session, I want to relate a little something a little more personal. I decided to go over to Arlington National Cemetery and visit the grave of a friend of mine who was buried there on February 2nd. Master Chief Jim Romneck died here in Winnebago County on October 29th. He was a friend. He served with us on the Veteran Service Commission of Winnebago County. Also was in Post 234 Amro Legion with me. He died on October 29th, was buried February 2nd. I decided to visit his gravesite and pay my respects, say my last goodbyes. It was quite an emotional trip over there. I walked in a little over, probably about 3/4 of a mile down Eisenhower and down McClellan, around McClellan Circle to Section 57. Again, very emotional. Then, on Wednesday, and this is the irony part, we were taking off out of Reagan. I happened to be seated on the left side of the airplane on a window seat. We took off to the north out of Reagan, bank left, so my side of the airplane was down. We went over the Pentagon, and the last thing I saw before we entered into the clouds was Jim Romneck's grave. That was an amazing experience. He had kind of a salty sense of humor. I don't know whether he was trying to tell me I was next or whether he's just trying to thank me for coming. But at any rate, I just thought I had to relay that. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Rowe.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This isn't a ping pong match or a tennis match, but I have to piggyback on something that Supervisor Higgs said. And it has to do with the additional $150,000 or additional $50,000. I don't know if he said it or not, but that amendment to the resolution was defeated 3-2. Supervisor Haig and I voted in favor of reducing it to $50,000, but it was defeated 3-2. I'm the eternal optimist. I'm hoping this comes up at the P&F meeting the first Thursday of April, because I'll still be there. And I will make that same motion at P&F. Hopefully, it will be approved to reduce it to $50,000. That won't stand in the way of anything coming up unless it's absolutely catastrophic. Then I have a challenge for those of you that are going to be here. If that's defeated at P&F, it's going to come before those of you that are still there. I challenge one of you to make that same amendment if it comes in at $150,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Approval of proceedings from February 13th County Board meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. County Executives Report.
As is my custom, I'm going to point out one item or two items on the agenda that I think are especially worthy of your consideration. And the item I want to cite tonight is Resolution 259, which is the appropriation of $5,070,000 for Highway Department infrastructure projects. That includes projects in Wolf River, Vinland, Neenah, Fox Crossing, Rushford, Nakaimai, Utica, the town of Neenah, and Black Wolf. So there are counties all over the project, all over the county. And this type of investment is necessary to maintain the quality of our county road system. So I hope you'll give that favorable consideration. I also have a number of appointments tonight. We extended an offer to a new individual for airport director, Jim Schell. Jim Schell is a deputy director at the Cheyenne, Wyoming airport, which is an airport that has many similarities to this one, is perhaps a little bigger. He would be starting, if approved by the board, on April 1st. His resume is attached.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by, Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, when I heard several weeks ago who the individual was that was going to get this position, I did research. Computers and Google searches are wonderful these days. I was impressed. Then when I got the packet and I saw his bio here, I'm further impressed. I think it's a good choice. I just have two questions. How many applicants were there?
You know, I don't know the exact number, but there was a large stack of applicants that was narrowed down to 4 that were the most qualified, all of whom were in deputy director or significant positions currently with airports. And then the head of the airport committee, the personnel director, myself, interviewed those 4 candidates and unanimously agreed on Jim.
A large number, a dozen or so?
I think perhaps more than that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have additional, well, has the board, okay.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
I have some additional appointments or reappointments. I have reappointments to the Affirmative Action Commission, Joaquin Lira, Rachel Youngquist, Linda Mingus, and David Albrecht.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
I have appointments to the Industrial Development Board, Ken Roble, George Shirk, and Robert Keller.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
I have 2 reappointments to the Solid Waste Management Board, Pat O'Brien and Paul Eisen.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And I have an appointment to fill the remainder of a vacancy on the Oshkosh Library Board, Larry Lautenschlager.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Supervisor Brooks, Supervisor Wojciechowski, Supervisor Long, and Supervisor Rasmussen have been asked to be excused from tonight's meeting. So at this time, I would like to have from the University of Wisconsin Extension System, Dr. Ray Cross, and President of the Oshkosh University, Dr. Andrew Levitt. He's the Chancellor of the University of Wisconsin. Come up and explain about the end of how the mergers are going to work. You can talk right up into that mic here.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having us. We're delighted to be here tonight. We, of course, have a major undertaking underway in order to create multiple pathways for the citizens of this region. That would be in the Fox Cities, in Oshkosh, and down in Fond du Lac, to better access higher education, creating opportunities from programs such as certificates to associate's degrees, to baccalaureates, to master's degrees, to doctorates, all under the roof of a single university. We're very excited about this and stand ready to work with the county. Of course, Mark Harris has been very involved in this, which I appreciate very much. And I want to thank Tom Snyder and George Shirk and Greg Hegg as well. I attended my first trustee meeting with the joint board between the two counties, and I found it to be very informative. So with that, I'll turn over to President Cross.
Thank you, Chancellor Levitt. I have a 3-hour speech, Mr. Chairman. No, I don't. Rather than me talking about this merger.
When you say 3 hours, I'll go 3/4 of them have fallen asleep.
Rather than me talking about this restructure and what it means both for colleges and extension, I thought I would let you ask me questions, because you probably have a number of questions, and I'll do my best to answer those. So if I may, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman, just let you ask questions.
Supervisor Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Cross, as chairman of the UW Education, Extension, and Agriculture Committee here in this county, we're still waiting with bated breath as to what the plans for the future are. We know you're taking control back down to Madison where it used to be. How is that going to affect county offices?
I hope it'll all be positive. I really do. I want to express my appreciation to you and to other members of the Extension Committee. Chris Kneep, who retired here, a year or two ago, was one of the people that brought me to Wisconsin. So I have fond memories of Chris and think very highly of her. And she often spoke about the Ag and Extension Committee and how thankful she was working with them. So I want to say that first. Secondly, I believe putting Extension back under the University of Wisconsin at Madison allows for closer work between the research faculty at Madison and the application of that in the field. One of the things that has always frustrated me is the university often doesn't listen adequately to the problems that exist in counties and cities and around the state. So in doing so, we're off researching our own thing and not connecting to the people who have issues or the governments that have issues and want us to help, or may come along and say there are other things that research could help us with. The reason I bring that up is because the communication from you to the university with people living and working in offices right here in the community where you have connections. They are your venue to get information to us in Madison to help us figure out, oh, we need to work on that. That's a problem that needs to be worked on. So I hope that relationship tightens rather than is separated. Now, it may not happen, so I don't want to make any promises. We are pretty fickle people at the university. You know, we're not always sensible, but let's assume that we're going to try and be. And I think that's just a pragmatic approach to tighten that relationship. The second part of that is I know that there are a number of temporary positions. I don't know if you filled your 4-H youth positions yet, but I know there are some temporary positions that, well, we've got to get those things filled quicker. I totally agree with that. Right now, everybody's preoccupied with the restructure. So I hope that elevates quickly. And in no way do I mean to say that the folks that are doing that on an interim basis aren't doing an outstanding job. I'm just saying that we need to fill those permanently. I think there are some other issues, sharing services between counties. The challenges that the extension has gone through financially have forced us to do some things which are not a lot unlike what's happening around the country. We will need feedback from you as that gets implemented and executed. We will need feedback from you that tells us you're not doing this well or you're not doing that well. This needs to improve. Hopefully there will be no loss in services, but an improvement in those services, and that's our commitment. So we need to know when we're not performing appropriately.
Thank you, Doctor, for mentioning Chris Kniep. It's because of her that Winnebago County and UW Extension have coexisted in such a great fashion over these years. And I would suggest that you would do well to check our model here in going forward in the future to see how we coexist. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think we have. We've often used the Winnebago County model as an example and what Chris helped to do, not just Chris, but also you folks. So I agree with that.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gabbard.
Maybe this is a twofold question for both of you gentlemen, but so tell me, Dr. Cross, how is the Extension Center going to work with the university? What is the game plan for working together? What do you have in mind? I understand what the extension system is, and I understand what the university is. How are you two groups going to work together for the betterment of the whole system?
So if I understand your question correctly, let me break it down into two parts. First of all, the extension operations in the county, the extension agents and so forth. And I think I've dealt with some of that. What used to be called the centers or extensions are now called UW colleges. How will they work with the campuses? And I think I'm going to let Chancellor Levitt speak a little bit to how that's going to merge together over time. Merge is the wrong word, still going to be separate, but how that collaboration might create some new and exciting opportunities. So.
Well, they are distinct operations, but at the same time, we can be mutually supportive in that. Of course, the extension officers will always have the full range of support services here at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. As we extend into the Fox Cities area and down into Fond du Lac, the issues there, as again, we're going to be able to provide the kind of support. If you look at Fond du Lac, for instance, Extensions is actually housed in the campus itself. It's separated here up in the north, but we see ourselves being a part of that as there's opportunities arise for collaboration. We have a tremendous faculty on all of these campuses who are ready and waiting to be engaged.
Thank you.
So I think there's another part to that too. Andy and his team have, along with folks from both the Fox Valley campus and the Fond du Lac campus, are already figuring out what bachelor's degrees might we bring to those two-year campuses. What can we do that would generate excitement and more engagement? They're already exploring some of those things. And I think there's another part to this. The ability to attract students to these campuses probably, it baffles me why enrollment is down 30-some% on these campuses, because there's such a great value for such a great education. One of the challenges we have is, as that enrollment has dropped, you would think there would be a parallel drop in transfer students to baccalaureate institutions. It's a greater drop in transfers. So one of the metrics we're going to use to measure the success of this is those students that transfer. Now, Andy's team is actually treating it not as transfer, but as simply transitioning from one part of the university to another, which in the eyes of hopefully the students and the families will be perceived as, this is no different. I don't have to worry about transfer. That's part of our challenge. And those are some of the things that I hope we can accomplish while we keep this as a low-cost option. I think was it you, Mark, maybe it was one of the folks we talked with today said, gee, it's cheaper to send your kids to daycare. It's cheaper to send your kids to one of these two-year campuses than it is to send your kids to daycare. What a value. Maybe I got carried away there, I'm sorry.
No, but you answered my question, so I'm interested in the two-year campuses. Perhaps someone goes there and then wants to transfer into the four-year. I'm really interested that all those credits would transfer for that student because of a situation that led them to go to the two-year and then go to UWO and graduate from there. So you answered my question, so thank you very much.
Supervisor Hagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, both for attending our meeting tonight. It's very much appreciated. Chancellor Levitt, at the Board of Trustees meeting a week ago Monday, you made a brief presentation, and I was hoping that you could describe to the board what you called the Fond du Lac, Oshkosh, and Menasha campus collaboration. I think you had a name for it?
Yes, we do. Well, we have branded the whole restructuring effort the Lake Winnebago Region Restructuring. It's got a nice logo and everything because we want to be very sensitive to the fact that each of these campuses have tremendous history and they have traditions and they have culture. And so as we bring them together to 3 campuses, 1 university, that's one of the taglines we use as well, we want to bring them together in such a way where there are no winners and losers. That's very important. Any student who resides in any of these campuses ought to have a very similar experience, whether it's Oshkosh, Fox Valley, or Fond du Lac. So we take those that particular value and hold it very dear, that we want to create the kind of environment where we're not calling campuses main campuses and satellite campuses. They're simply the campuses of the new university.
So the follow-up question then, I don't know if you received the email that I sent you, but based on the terminology you've used about the Lake Winnebago reconstruction, is there or has there been a much thought process to trying to, lure may not be the correct word, but pulling Calumet County into the equation?
Well, that's certainly something we need to consider. Calumet obviously has a significant number of students who participate up at the Fox Valley region. I think this is now the time, as we're moving into this new situation, it's a great time to engage them and to say that we're a big part of helping educate the citizenry of Calumet County. How can they participate in making that even better? So we're committed to engaging Calumet County on that.
Thank you very much and good luck.
Supervisor Braun.
Yes, I have interest in this as I have 2 sons that both went to UW Fox and then transferred to UW Oshkosh. There's obviously questions I had about transferring credits, and I feel as though this is a good move if this actually works better than your current system. It's supposed to be a smooth transition. I have to say, I don't think it is entirely smooth. There's repeated credits that they had to take, which took away from the savings of going to UW Fox. Right. So my question is what is really driving this consolidation at this time? Why are we looking at this? Is it to save money, to increase enrollment, to make things better for the students, or another issue?
Yeah, there are probably 3 primary drivers, and I'll try to speak to those crisply. The colleges have experienced the most significant decline in enrollment in the last 5 years. The average is about 33% decline in enrollment. And given now that our funding is much more dependent on tuition, hence enrollment, it is affecting us financially. Secondly, if you look at the migrations away from rural communities and towards urban communities, the 18 to 24-year-olds are moving to urban environments. Less so the bigger the community is. So you're seeing the more acute enrollment declines, over 50, 55% at some of these campuses like Marathon, Richland Center, Manitowoc. So we were pressed on this for those kinds of issues. The third reason is this transfer issue has been, you described it exactly correctly. It isn't, we have these agreements. Oh, all your credits are going to transfer. Oh, but you're going to have to take this course. You got the picture. That shouldn't happen at all. Andy and I have been I've been in 4 different states. And yet we're a part of the same system here. Why is this happening? And so that's one of the issues. Okay, we're going to put them in the same house. I'm probably exaggerating that a little bit, and let's figure out a way to streamline that. I would say many of the folks in the Capitol have suggested that you're doing this to save money. Now, there will be some money savings. It won't be that much. It'll probably have to be reinvested. These kinds of restructure cost money anyway. There's one-time money you have to spend to switch things around. So the primary reason is to better serve and provide access to the people of Wisconsin.
If I can comment on that just very quickly. You know, for no other reason, I was a part of a merger in the state of Georgia. I came from Georgia before this, and about 5 or 6 years ago, we merged a 2-year college with a 4-year college. And what I can tell you today is that the result of that is much greater than simply the sum of its parts. And I know that's going to happen in this region as well, simply because all 3 campuses are very strong. All 3 institutions are very strong. And as we bring them together, we're going to create something that's going to be unlike anything else in the state in terms of these kinds of restructuring efforts. And so I would add a 4th reason. It's just a darn good idea that we bring these groups together, because as we begin to roll select baccalaureate and master's degrees onto the campuses in Fox Valley and in Fond du Lac, you're going to see access increase. You're going to see barriers drop for adult learners in particular, being able to access higher education in a very affordable way and in a very convenient way. This is just a good idea.
Supervisor Warnke.
Excuse me. You say you're going to transfer the power down to Madison. Is this going to relieve a lot of financial obligation from Winnebago County and Outagamie County? And you know, now we take care of the buildings, I think, and then you guys take care of everything else. So is this going to, we don't have to pay this anymore?
Probably you all wish that were the case. No, the existing contracts for this arrangement, which I want to pause here just to comment on that. This is the 4th state I've been in. This is impressive. The county's support for these 2-year campuses is really amazing. And so that is very much appreciated. And if you look at the tuition differential between these first 2 years on these campuses, so it's a little over $5,000 to go to one of these campuses. And you go to Madison, it's about 10,000 something, and if in between it's 7,000 or 8,000. This is a sizable difference, and that's because of you, not because of us. We want to guard that carefully. That ability to offer a quality education at that lower tuition is something we're really committed to. So having said that, we genuinely appreciate your commitment to support the buildings and your partnership with us, and it's with the Board of Regents in Madison already. But I we want to continue that. The one thing we want to be able to do is expand our support on the operation side, and hopefully your continued support for facilities and maintenance of those facilities will allow us to do that.
Another thing is, I strongly support bringing Calumet County and Shawano County into this. They have taken advantage of our system for a long time, and I don't think it's fair. They should be paying their fair share just as well as Winnebago and Outagamie County do.
I think, as I recall, Calumet County residents of Calumet County make up about 15% of the student body at Fox Valley.
Well, whatever it is, it should be prorated.
I agree. The question is, I don't know how to force that, and I got to figure out a way to have that conversation in a way that's appealing. So if you have suggestions, I would welcome that, because
Well, the suggestion is if they're from any of these counties, that you charge them the same as, you charge them some kind of a fee to make up the difference. I don't know how you're going to work it out, but there should be a ratio that you could figure out.
That supervisor that's questioning you right now just went back to college a couple of years ago and graduated from college, so he's one of your older people, older people that have graduated from college, so.
that's why he's so smart.
Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got some concern about the future of higher education, considering that right now the country is looking more toward people in the trades. And I'm concerned that the university system is not working real well with the tech school system. I think these two systems should work better together, because the people going through the two-year degree or one-year vocational programs in the tech school system, and that some of them want to move on and up and go through the university system. And there seemed to be a problem in the past, and I don't know if it still exists, but the transferring of credits in certain academic and non-trade programs, it seems that they want to take this, they want the tech school students to take the same courses over again that they took while in tech school, and I hear they're very unhappy about that.
Yeah, that's a okay. That's a comment that other states I've been into, we have that same problem. We have increased the. Before I came, there was not a articulation agreement between the two. We now accept 42 credits, as I recall, from the technical colleges. That's growing. We're trying to assure that the competencies and expectations of what we expect students to know and be able to do is comparable. So there is emerging nationally a whole competency-based process that merely measures what do you know, how well do you know it, what can you do, how well can you do it, and we award credit on that basis. So I think that one of the benefits of this, not just competency-based education, but the colleges, extension is at the heart of this whole competency-based movement. So I think over time that will become even more clear and easier. That is the transition between technical colleges and the university. I think it's a very important element. You shouldn't have to take those things over again if you truly understand and know how to do it. Andy had a comment here too.
I can comment on the local relationship with Fox Valley Technical College. Susan May, who's the president there, is a very good friend of mine. As a matter of fact, I actually consider her a mentor as well. She's just been terrific. We have a tremendous relationship with Fox Valley. As a matter of fact, we have approximately 250 students a year who transfer from Fox Valley Technical College into UWO. We have numerous articulation agreements. We've created programs together, and the two that come to mind would be the engineering technology program which we created here that's good for all of the tech colleges in the area, along with the two-year colleges and the four-year. We did it as a part of a collaboration called New Era, which is Northeast Wisconsin Educational Resource Alliance. I've never seen the level of cooperation any better anywhere than we have here with our tech colleges. So that's something that I think that we can continue to build upon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
been very informative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on, I would like to have Claude Thompson, Bill Rowe, Guy Haig.
Point of order.
I don't, now what could it possibly be?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to inquire whether we have approved the proceedings of February 13th?
Yes, we did.
We have?
Yeah, that's when
Okay,
you were
thank
talking
you.
to somebody else over here. So I would like to have those, okay, I'll say them again. Bill Rowe, or Claude Thompson, Bill Rowe, Guy Haig, Lawrence Kreischer, and Justin Powell come up, and we would like to honor them. A lot of times we give a plaque to people for their services after they're there, and it's always hard to get them to come back here. So we would like to do it before they leave. So would you please come forward? Okay, the first one is, in recognition of years of service on the Winnebago County Board of Supervisor, Claude Thompson, Winnebago County Board Supervisor, District Number 14, from 2002 to 2018. The next one is Guy Haig. In recognition of your years of service of Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, District Number 27, 2010 to 2018. The next one is Bill Rowe. In recognition of the years of service of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, District Number 7, 2008 to 2018. Thank you for your years of service. The next one is Lawrence Kreischer. In recognition of your years of service of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, from 2011 to 2018. The next one is to Justin Powell. In recognition of your years of service, Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, the Winnebago County District Number 6, 2017 to 2018. I want to tell you, some of the ladies that are involved here think you are nice to have the cutest little boy on our board. Thank you. Zoning reports and ordinance. Supervisor Egan. It's been moved and seconded, then to approve a mandatory ordinance number 1. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolutions and ordinances. Zoning reports. What? I have it all on one. I mean, I don't have that. Resolution and ordinances. Commendation for Wendy Conger. Supervisor Rasmussen. I'll bring it forward. All in or I'll move for the commendation of Wendy Wagner, 24803-2018. Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Commendation for Lara Freikart. Resolution 24903-2018. Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Ordinance number 25103-2018 adopts section 3.16 of General Code of Winnebago County, establish a 1-hour cutoff time period prior to the end of each business day for filing and recording real estate documents in the Register of Deeds office. Supervisor Wingren. Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Powers.
No, he's first.
Well, I understand, but I didn't see that your light was on. I probably was on for a while, but.
All right, I just had a question about this, and that was, if someone can't get there by 3:30, if they come in after 3:30 on a given day, is it considered then applicable to the next business day, or is it just turned down totally after 3:30?
Natalie, would you come up to the mic?
We haven't got on the floor yet.
He just said it.
Do that.
We would still take the paper in and check it over. It would just go on the first thing the next business day.
He skipped this guy. I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
We would still take the paper in and check it over and everything. It would just go on the next business day.
Thank you. I don't like it.
Would you state that again? She's looking confused.
Would I state it again?
Huh? Go ahead.
Okay, the paper would be taken in after 3:30. It would just go on record the next business day.
Okay. Supervisor Norton.
Mr. Chairman, this may be a strange question, but I've felt for a long time, and I've talked to other elected officials, namely the treasurer and maybe even
Mr. Chairman, this is needed on the floor. What are we talking about?
I thought we brought it to the floor. I know we have to but go back and do Resolution 250-03-2018.
Call on me, do not allow me to speak. Call on her, then let her speak.
I guess I'm sorry I got your lights goofed up, and so I apologize. So that being said, I'll start over on Resolution number 250-03-2018, disallow claim of David Wiesner, which I skipped. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, back to ordinance number 251-03-2018. Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the board consider this ordinance. I say that because at the committee level, I had trouble with this, and I have trouble with it now. It just seems wrong. Close an office an hour early so you can do your work, and I understand the reason. The Register of Deeds explained that very well. She does a great job, but it seems to me you have an employee come in an hour later and stay an hour later to do this. It just sends a wrong signal. No other department has ever asked to close their services early for whatever reason.
And when the person ran for this office, they didn't indicate they'd have to do this to provide services to the people. So I think it's a wrong signal to send out to the public, and I'm sure that we could get this done in normal business hours.
Supervisor Lautenschläger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it like a state law that says the public offices have to be open between 8 and 4:30? I mean, I always thought that the public offices had to be open between 8 and 4:30. I thought that was...
Corporation Counsel is shaking his head no. Maybe he can explain it.
There is none? I thought there was. So you can just be open 4 hours?
There are certain days of the week that are, certain days during the year that are designated as public holidays when courthouse and buildings will be closed. It's up to the county to set the hours for the offices to be open. Different counties have different hours and there's a specific provision in the statute that allows but it has to be approved by the county board, which would allow the Register of Deeds office or other offices to stop taking papers at a specific time for recording. But it's up to you. I mean, it's your call.
All right. Thank you.
Supervisor Norton.
Thank you. I have thought a number of years, and I've talked to like the treasurer and maybe Sue. I said, would you, Register of Deeds, ever be open to maybe one night during the month to be open a little later? Because what does that person do who has to work until 5 o'clock every day and he can't come and he's got to make a special trip to your office, get off from work to do that? I guess I'm feeling like Mr. Wingren. I was hoping that maybe sometime that we can make a little more friendlier offices. I'm not saying every week, maybe once a month, and maybe once a month have the offices of the clerk and the Register of Deeds and treasurer maybe be open a little bit later, and maybe even an hour later, to maybe a little more friendly to the public for those people who have to work an 8 to 5 o'clock job. That's what I'm proposing. Would you be open to that?
He's asking you if you would be open to changing some hours.
I don't think that's up to me. I think that's up to the county board to set the hours for the courthouse and administration buildings.
Okay. You understand? Did you see her answer?
No, I mean, so that means if I wanted to make a resolution to the Judiciary Committee to say, and I have to get agreement from these offices to open an hour later, that's what I'm going to do. They're going to have to meet me more than halfway. They're going to have to agree to it, to me to impose that. And I guess I was not totally satisfied. I'll take it to the answer of what I future do, but yeah, I'm somewhat acceptable, Mr. Chairman.
Can I make a statement? Sure. The Register of Deeds office, before I started had a policy of closing out the e-recording part of it at 3 and the paper portion at 4, so they could get everything done by the end of the day, because you need to prep the paper, key the paper in and everything before we can close for the end of the day. Because we're getting more e-records in versus paper documents, I was trying to make the time later for the e-recordings and keep it consistent, because Wisconsin is a race to the county or Register of Deeds office for recording, and they should be at the same time. And I found out there was no ordinance on record, so I'm just trying to clarify and make it proper for what was being done in the office.
Supervisor Gabbard.
Okay, so here's my question. I read this resolution. I understand that your office will still be open till 4:30, but after 3:30, the document that needs to be filed for recording, a real estate document, if it comes in after 3:30, it says in here you would not accept it, but you just prior to a couple of questions said that you would take the documents, but then they would be recorded the next day.
It would not be accepted for recording that day. It would be put on the next business
But
day.
you'd accept the document.
Yes, we would always take the document in from the individual so they wouldn't have to come back.
And you're open till 4:30.
We're open till 4:30. Today I was there until 5 because we had a customer that came right at 4:30. We stay late if we need to.
So I don't have any problem with this because whether it got filed on that day or the next morning in a real estate transfer, that's coming as a document to get the deed done. It's just, it doesn't bother me. I think some of the board members are thinking that you're closing at 3:30.
No, we have vitals and other real estate stuff we need to complete. We have genealogy people we wait on. We have a lot of business for vitals towards the end of the day.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the committee vote at the bottom of this resolution, I see it's 5-0, and I was just wondering from the chairman of the Judiciary Committee who spoke on this earlier, did you vote in favor of this or against it in committee?
As I stated in my comment, I was very torn, and I ended up voting for it because I thought our Razor did a good job explaining it. But after I read this resolution, talking to some people, and even thinking along the lines of Mr. Norton, other county offices don't complain about they have too much work to do. Only one. They don't close early, and at the meeting, one thing is said in the document, another thing is said on 30 and 31. It says no real estate document shall be accepted for recording and/or filing after 3:30 p.m. on each normal business day. Well, that contrary to what was just said, I believe. So
is it or isn't?
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for your clarification, Mr. Wingren. So maybe that's a question then. Should we amend this to take that line out? But I do have a question for the Register of Deeds, and that is, you made a comment about e-records, e-records. What percentage of your business in the office is e-records currently?
Last year, we had basically 55% being e-records and 45 for paper documents, which is basically reversed from the other year. So we went up 10% for e-recordings.
Do the e-recordings eliminate the necessity to come in your office in person?
Yes.
Thank you.
Supervisor Eisen.
I think the bottom line for this county board to consider is if this resolution is either pulled or defeated, nothing will change.
His microphone.
It's on.
Nothing will change.
No, it's not.
Nothing will change. If you defeat this resolution, nothing changes. If a document comes in at 3:30, it's still going to wait until the next business day to go out. What the Register of Deeds has just tried to do, or is trying to do, because she's new in this position, newly elected at the last election, she's trying to make this policy uniform. She's trying to extend the hours that the digital electronic receipts are delivered and accepted. And she's trying to clarify the fact that if you bring your document after 3:30, it's not going to go out until the next business day. It still doesn't go out to the next business day today. So at the committee level, it was a very heated discussion. and I thought it was very clearly stated that the Register of Deeds is trying to do a service to the public, so they are better informed on how the operation goes. She's not closing the door at 3:30 and prohibiting people from coming in. She's not changing anything. She's just making it very transparent how the operation works and how people can expect their transactions to be handled. So I'm going to vote for this. You can make your own decision whether you want to vote for it or against it, because however you vote, it's not going to change the way the flow of work goes.
Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm speaking against this resolution. On line 14, it says these steps are somewhat similar to steps banks must complete by the end of the day. When I worked for the Chase Manhattan Bank in New York City, my hours were from 8 until finish, so it didn't mean I got to go home at 4 or 4:30 or 5:30 or 6 o'clock. It was when the work was done. And I was just wondering, Mr. Chairman, if you could ask her, how late are people staying at this office to get their work done for things that are brought in, right at 4:30? Is it every day? Is this looking at a half an hour? Is it late into the night? What are we looking at in terms of extra hours? Thank you.
As of right now, with the e-recordings being done at 3 and the paper documents being done at 4, which there is no ordinance for, we try to get everything done by 4:30, but sometimes if something doesn't balance or we get like 30 papers in at the end of the day that need to be processed, we could be there longer. We're usually there longer than 4:30 with dealing with vital records. And we always stay, if there's a customer at the counter, we stay until we're finished with that customer. I'm just trying to prevent comp time and overtime with trying to process this. And when I did a polling of some of the other counties, out of the 51 counties that answered, 45 of them have a cutoff time period.
And that cutoff time period is different from their posted hours of service?
Their time period averaged out to be an hour cutoff prior to their closing time period.
Okay.
There are word variances, but that was the average.
Supervisor Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly can understand the intent of the resolution, but similar to Supervisor Wingren, I'm a bit conflicted on the resolution. But what I can say for sure is the way the resolution is written currently, and there's been a reference to it, I could not support it the way it currently is worded, and therefore I would like to offer up an amendment, because if it ultimately does pass, I do think this is important. And it's more of a clarification, frankly, of what the Register of Deeds had described as her intent. So I'm going to offer up an amendment, and this would be starting on line 30. In the preceding line, it says, during normal business hours, the Winnebago County Register of Deeds office shall accept real estate documents, and then it goes on between 8 and 3:30. I would like to change it on line 30 for where it says, office shall accept real estate documents, and then from there, remove recording and filing, and simply say, accept real estate documents between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. And then the next line would say, however, comma, no real estate documents shall be recorded and or filed after 3:30 p.m. on each normal business day. It's basically reflecting her intent, but it's very important to me because we certainly don't want to have an ordinance that might be interpreted by others as us not accepting those documents when they would come in during normal business hours. So, thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. So now back to the amended resolution. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. 3 noes. Carried. Resolution 25203-2018 adopts Section 9.40 of the General Code of Winnebago County, prohibits sex texting among minors. Supervisor Wingren.
Chairman, I move approval of Resolution 252-2018.
It's been
The
moved and
intent
seconded.
of this document, or this resolution, is to remove severe penalties from those who are young and make a stupid mistake, quite frankly.
Supervisor Powers, did you have a
I did
comment?
Yes, sir, I did have one question, or one correction. On line 24, messages or emails usually by cellular telephone and not be cellular telephone. And this does not affect sexting between children and adults, is that right?
So we
Okay,
can just make that as a minor change?
yeah. It's just a typo, I think.
Would you state it over again?
On line 24, messages or emails usually by cellular telephone. And the way it's worded now, it says usually be cellular telephone.
Okay. Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would the sheriff please explain the difference between the penalties that are being assessed, if that's a proper word, currently, and how this would amend those?
Sure. Currently, if one minor were to send a nude photo or private parts over email or over a cell phone, it would be sending child pornography, and the person receiving it could actually be in possession of child pornography, depending upon what they do with that photo. Sometimes it gets disseminated, and what we're trying to do with this ordinance is not charge a kid with a felony for making that kind of decision, but along with this, and I think more important, is a diversion program where we will put kids through a diversion program that's run by Reach Counseling. The cost is $100 to the child, and the cost of this particular ordinance is $200 plus costs. So it would behoove them both financially and to remove any record of the event for them to attend the diversion program. So if they don't complete the diversion program, we still have this option if it's not an extremely serious case where it's constant and it's more of an harassment type thing.
I think this initiative is excellent. Well done to the committee and to the sheriff for bringing it forward. Well done.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff Motz, in regards to the penalty provision in this resolution, it states exactly what you just said. But to piggyback on Mr. Fari's question, you said it's a felony, but you didn't say that there is a monetary forfeiture as well?
Well, there can be in a felony, but certainly there's a lot of stigma that's attached to that, as well as jail time and all kinds of different things that can be attached to it. So depending upon the seriousness of the event, and we would take into consideration all of those things, and we'd also take into consideration parents. We'd make sure that we discuss the diversion program with both sets of parents, and in the case of this forfeiture, it'd be the same thing, or this ordinance would be the same thing. We would discuss that at length.
How has this offense, for lack of a better term, how has it increased or decreased, say, over the last decade?
Well, it's increased significantly. We see it very often. Our school liaison officers, both ours for the sheriff's office as well as throughout the municipalities, who are adopting, if they haven't already, they are adopting basically the same ordinance. They will be using the same diversion program, So we're all collectively trying to work on this issue that exists.
And it's growing even though the current penalty for this offense is a felony?
It is, because many times it's not prosecuted, it might be referred, but there's still a lot of stigma that goes with it, and a lot of issues that go with it as well. There have been occasions where kids under the age of 18 have been charged and convicted of possession of and distribution of child pornography that stems from a picture that's been forwarded.
In regards to the diversion program, do you have any idea what the success rate is of that program?
It'll be new for us. Certainly we are going to, they'll look at all different facets of what's morally right, the harm that's done to not just the person whose photo is being sent, but there's a lot of other harm that occurs with reputation of the school, reputation of who they associate with, et cetera.
Are there any data from other counties, either in Wisconsin or anywhere else, who have moved towards this diversion program?
We didn't really have a lot to go with as far as another diversion program like this. I'm certain there is somewhere in the United States, but we actually made it, customize it to what we're experiencing here. So I don't have any data. I'm very hopeful. Most of our diversion programs are very successful. Our options program for first-time alcohol offenders, for juveniles. We have other programs for juveniles that are fairly effective.
In regards to the diversion program, have you reviewed the syllabus or whatever the material is, and do you feel it's applicable and would be a positive for Winnebago County?
Yes.
And if it's at all possible, finally, would you be willing to come back to the board in, say, a year or 2 years and review this policy with the board to see what the success rate is of the program?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Supervisor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I have no interest in promoting or condoning or any approving of the activity that they're trying to prevent. However, I do have a serious question about how in the world you would ever be able to enforce such an ordinance without doing an awful lot of eavesdropping. Now, it seems to me that communications among people really ought to be pretty private. And I don't know how you can enforce this ordinance without somebody finding out what you're saying to people, to other people. I think this is a solution looking for a problem. Well, there is a problem. Is there a huge problem? But this proposed solution will do nothing whatever to take care of it, as far as I'm concerned.
We wait for the event to be reported to us. So if a photograph is sent to a juvenile, from one juvenile to another, it gets reported by that juvenile that received it. That's when we find out about it. We don't try to intercept any emails or intercept any text messages.
Okay. It was moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? One no. That was carried. Resolution number 253-2018. Execute easement agreement between Winnebago County and Wisconsin Independent Network, LLC. Supervisor Wernke.
Okay, this lease concerns the 2 cell towers that we have at the airport. There's no money involved. but what it does do, what they want to do is to run a small fiber optic cable to these towers. The two towers are from U.S. Cellular, which we get $1,032.59 a month for. The other one is for JB or SBA, and that one we get $1,140.66 a month for. And I ask for your approval.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 254 has been pulled. Resolution number 25503, 2018, amend the table of organization for Winnebago County Information Systems Department and authorize the transfer of $76,949 from the undesignated general fund balance to cover labor and operating expenses for the addition of a cyber security architect position. Supervisor Smith.
I move for approval of Resolution 25503-2018.
Been moved and seconded. Supervisor Gabbard.
I'm just going to make a personal statement here. We did budget the first week in November, and IS never came at budget time and asked for this position. So I find it kind of odd in reading the resolution and seeing that for 17 years we haven't hired anybody and we're overworked and we can't do it ourselves. I understand that, but I guess my question is, if someone's here from IS, why wasn't this presented to us at budget time, which was the first week in November? Now it's March, and we're supposed to take $76,949 from the undesignated general fund to hire a new employee, which we should have discussed at budget time.
Laura, would you give it an answer?
Hi. In early 2017, we still thought that we could do it. We knew how difficult it was to get additional employees into the budget, and we thought we really could do it. But then in late 2017, early 2018, it was very difficult for us to get training in and stuff. And we tried to do everything in-house, and many employees carried over everything. And then we thought we had skills that would be sought by other, I'm sorry, I'm reading notes from Patty. We have staff with skills that would be sought by other employees. So there's many security issues out there that are happening right now. I don't know if you guys are aware of. And we just feel like there's just so much that we really need to pay more attention to it. And that's the reason we're coming forward now for it.
I understand all that, but my point is, I understand cybersecurity, I understand that we need to watch that, but my question again is, why wasn't this brought up at budget time instead of now? And it could have been put in your budget versus taking it from the undesignated fund. That's what is spinning me tonight on voting for this. Have you already hired this person?
No, absolutely not. I wish.
Okay. That was just my statement. That's me personally not liking how this came down.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to piggyback on Supervisor Gabbard's comments, I certainly didn't see in reviewing my 2018 budget book that this position was in there either. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the Personnel and Finance meeting. I had that influenza back then, but in regards to the fiscal impact on this, which is outlined on lines 29, 30, 31, and 32, this is just not transferring $77,000 to cover this position. The estimated total cost for the new position is $131,584 per year, covering labor, benefits, and small equipment expenses. To cover the remainder of the current year, $75,000 will be transferred, $74,569 will be transferred to labor and benefits expense accounts. I totally agree with Supervisor Gabbard. And I guess my question is, was somebody in IS potentially told not to include this in their 2018 budget and then bring it to us a quarter later? I mean, I hate to even speculate that that might be the scenario, but that stands out in my mind as a real possibility, and as such, I cannot support it.
Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution and the discussion is quite poetic. Gabbert and Guy ask why. Good question. And what struck me is the same thing that struck Mr. Hague, I believe. You read down in the small print, $131,584 for a new position. Isn't that more than the county executive makes?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for a new position, then it's the second line. We've had this problem. We need this person for 17 years. But did we need it at budget time? No. Do we need it in December? No. Do we need it in January? No. February? No. But March, by golly, we need this now. No. So Gabbert and Guy ask why. I say nay.
Supervisor Gordon.
I will be supporting this resolution primarily because if we do not have someone who is at this expert level protecting our county's systems, we could end up spending many times more than this in lost productivity and data and lawsuits. There are so many people out there who do nothing but hack. I think it's a good investment by the county to protect our IT systems.
Supervisor Smith. Thank you.
I agree with Supervisor Gordon on that. We've been talking about this in the IS committee about the cybersecurity for quite some time. And as you're probably aware of, and it's been in the news, big organizations have had their security hacked. If public information has been brought forward that is not public information that these hackers can get a hold of. Our county can be very vulnerable in that area. If we do not have frontline, first priority cybersecurity, and that we're not going to have a secure county. So this is the reason why this was brought forward now to be considered by the board to have secure our county's IS system.
Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do support this the same reason Supervisor Smith and Gordon have. It's much needed. It's much needed, and if you look at the cost that Mr. Supervisor Winger called up, is $131,584 for salary, benefits, and small equipment expenses, not just for salary. And I understand Supervisor Gabbert and Guy Hague are upset because it's in at the budget time, but would they vote for a budget time? That's another question. That would have only taken majority. This, it takes 2/3. So if you're saying to me, Supervisor Gabbert, that you would vote for this in November, even though the position is now, I think that's kind of wrong. Position is needed. It's been needed for 17 years. I'm not really totally concerned about when it's brought forward. It's being brought forward. And like I say, it's going to take 2/3, not a majority. So I think there are enough justifications to support it and pass it and approve it now.
Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am going to support it for one major reason, and that is to protect Winnebago County. If we don't have somebody that really knows their stuff, what they're doing, and somebody does hack in, it could create a lot of havoc. It'll cost us a lot more money than $100,000. So therefore, I am going to support it, and I hope at least X amount more people will also support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Gabbert.
I don't think some of you were listening to me. I asked the question and said it was just me personally. This should have been brought up at budget time. I never said I was against this. I was just saying, if you knew this position needed to be filled, during the week of budget, could have been brought forward. Nobody brought it forward. We rushed through all the departments, everybody's flip, 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 let's get our budget in. I am not in disagreement. $131,000 to me is a big salary. This is more than some of our department heads make. But I understand the cybersecurity. What I'm saying is, I think it's inappropriate to bring it forward at this time. That's all I said. I never said I wasn't voting for it. But if I choose not to vote for it, it's going to be because I felt that this was inappropriate to bring it to us right now.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I agree with Supervisor Gabbard, even though I would not support this in its current form, mostly because of protocol. This is just bad government. At least if it's in the budget and it's presented in October during our traditional budget presentation, we'll get a presentation. We would get some facts about how the department is structured, about some of the whereases on the beginning of this resolution. We certainly have some form of cybersecurity right now. It's not like there is nothing. So with that said, and just to clarify, Mr. Norton, it's not about whether or not we would have voted for it in November. We at least should have a presentation about adding to employees in Winnebago County, and that should be done during the budget presentation. Thank you.
Supervisor Shirk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Gordon certainly makes a valid point when she talks about cybersecurity. Never in the history of this country probably has there been greater concern at every level of government and private sector economy about cybersecurity. I still don't get an answer, though, to Supervisor Gabbard's concern about why it wasn't presented during the budget. I wish somebody would at least mention why that was the case, because certainly there was no more need today than there was 6 months ago. So could somebody just touch on that?
I do know that, like I said, in early 2017, when we were working, I mean, there wasn't really as many security vulnerabilities going on. They've really just exploded lately. And we recently sent one of our guys to Madison to be part of the cybersecurity group, and it's just opened our eyes, it's just opened our eyes to what we aren't doing that we really should be doing to protect the county.
Supervisor Binder.
I guess I truly believe that we create a budget so that we have the funds to fund it, and to bring this position forward now. If we were a small business, we wouldn't be able to afford to do it. We'd have to wait till the next budget cycle and figure out where we're going to cut to basically get this new position. So I won't be supporting it, and I believe that we have the talent in info systems to make it another 9 months to the next budget, and we can get somebody next year. But we have to live within our means, and if we're going to fund this position, that means we got to cut something else. We can't expect the taxpayers just to continue to put money into a system and not manage the money properly. So I won't be supporting it.
Thank you. Supervisor Eisen.
I will support it. I call the question and I ask for a recorded vote.
We are having a recorded vote, and there are no more lights on, so we're going to call for the question. We'll vote by our iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove.
Yeah, but it took 4 tries.
That has failed. Resolution number 261. Resolution number 256, authorize the transfer of $43,500 from the Parks Department's other operating expense account to the labor account of the Parks Department's 2017 budget to cover overages and the labor costs. Supervisor Finch.
Mr. Chairman, I move for resolution number 256-032018.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution 257-03-2018, appropriate the transfer of $23,750 from the general fund undesignated fund balance account to miscellaneous unclassified cost center payout wages account of 2017 Winnebago County budget to cover sick leave payout overages from other additional costs. I'll bring it forward. Is there a second? Resolution 257-03-2018. I'll bring that forward.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only question I have in regards to this is the contingency, the whatever that category of contingency in the budget is called for such things, has that been exhausted for 2017?
That has not been, but I'd have to go back and look at the balance for that contingency.
So if we have a contingency set aside in the 2017 budget that may or may not be have been exhausted, why are we taking $23,750 from general fund undesignated fund balance instead of potentially where it should come from?
It should say the way this is, the reserve is in the fund balance. I would have to definitely get back to you about why it would say undesignated versus that reserve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The HR director will.
If I may, I think I can shed a little light on it. It's not technically a contingency fund, and I think that's why our new finance director wasn't sure how to answer that, perhaps. There was an amount budgeted. There's an amount budgeted every year. Budget was prepared by Chuck, and the amount for 2017 just went over the budget by that amount. That we had an unusually high number of retirements of long-serving employees who retired early in 2017. We really had a bubble of them, so the amount was over the budget. I think we had the same situation a year ago where it was a little bit higher than the budget.
Thank you, Mike.
The budget was exhausted. There was a budgeted amount to pay for those payouts, and that budget was exhausted.
Do I have to vote by our iPad? We'll vote by our iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. That is passed. Resolution number 258-03-2018, authorize and transfer of $492,500 from the fund balance account to the Highway Department's depreciation expense, professional services, and maintenance and repair streets accounts to cover overages in these accounts. Supervisor Robel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move for the approval of Resolution 258-032018.
Okay, it was moved and seconded. We'll vote by our iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. Okay, go ahead.
I hate to be so cynical tonight, but I think $492,500 is a lot of money. So I've read everything. Is Ray here?
Yes.
So, Ray, if you could just give me some insight into the 231 professional services, why that ran over so much? I mean, I understand you have engineering services, but what drove that? And then the maintenance repairs streets. Maybe you could give me some insight into why that was so hefty.
Sure. With the professional services, you know, with the highway department, we're an enterprise fund, and when we have projects like County Highway A, County CB and Oak Ridge Road roundabout, we estimate what our billing will be for the professional services that we're going to be getting from the state DOT, and it's just an estimate. We're trying to make our best estimate as to how much those costs will be. We just had more of those expenses come in than what we anticipated.
So your best estimate for engineering services from the DOT, you're saying?
Yeah, those costs, those...
Engineers or whatever that
Right.
So your best estimate is not so good.
Well, the estimate...
Could be better? Could be better? I mean, 231,000 is a lot of cash.
Well, that's not all the cost. We also received an invoice from the DOT from a closed project from several years ago of over $100,000 that we had no idea was coming. We also purchased cameras for the project for the bridges, the DOT lift bridges in Oshkosh. We bought the cameras, but the revenues that we haven't been reimbursed by the state yet. So when we close our books at the end of the year, the revenues hadn't been received yet. So that's part of this. So most of these are paper adjustments. The revenues just haven't come in. So when we have
The $100,000, you didn't know you were going to get that bill?
no.
Okay, now let's get to the equipment thing, or the maintenance and repairs. What drove that up so high?
Well, again, we make estimates on
You
what
have
our
to talk in your mic. No, not you. I mean, Ms. Supervisor Gabbard.
Okay, back to my question. Can you explain the maintenance repairs? I understand things happen that aren't budgeted, but that much money? What was the big draw there?
with the repairs on our equipment, again, we estimate how much we think our equipment will break down and how much repairs we'll have to make on our equipment, but we never know for sure. We just happen to be, our estimate was under what our actual repairs were for the year.
Maybe I'm the only one, but $492,500 is a lot of money to pull out of our undesignated funds. So, yeah, okay, thank you.
What I would like to add is our fund balance has a balance of just over 1.6 million. This will bring it down to 1.1, but you have to understand, because we're an enterprise fund, those revenues that will come in that didn't hit the books prior to the end of the year, we'll add that back into that, supplement that fund balance.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Sinkstock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that to make that resolution a little clearer, they should identify the fund balance. There's a highway fund balance and there's a general fund balance.
So where do you want to put it?
Well, I just want the fund balance identified in whatever, it's either highway or general, and that should be inserted in front of the fund balance.
Okay, we will do that. Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've had a long-standing question about these kinds of things over the years. I've asked the question, and I got the same answer, and that is, what if we vote no? And the answer I always got was, well, it gets paid anyway. So why are we, is that true?
Say that again.
If we vote no, do these bills get paid anyway?
The bills have already been paid, yes.
So what are we voting on this for? CYA?
That's our county policy. We have to bring this before the board so you're aware of what our
Well, what if we vote
expenditures
no?
are.
Finance director will tell you.
If you vote no, what we do in the audited financial statements, we have a part, we would leave it as an overage in his budget, and we would have to spell that out in our audited financial statements. So it would be on record.
Does the bill get paid, yes or no?
Yes, they will
Okay.
have got paid.
then.
Supervisor Binder.
I think in Ray's defense, it's kind of like when we had the consultant come for the windows. They were supposed to be $1.2 million, and they came in at $3 million. It's like the professional services, you know, they give you an estimate, and they don't always come with an exact figure. And as far as the equipment, when they're running them snowplow trucks, I mean, the transmissions go out of them. You can spend $20,000 real quick on one vehicle. I've seen the mold boards on the graders get ripped off. There's $20,000. I mean, there's a lot of expense with all the equipment he's running, and to know what's going to break down and what repairs are going to be needed, sometimes it's hard to actually figure it out. So I think they're all justified. It's too bad that, you know, sometimes it comes in such large numbers, but I don't really think he had any control over it.
Okay, we'll vote by our iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. That is passed. Resolution number 259, appropriate $5,070,000 for the Winnebago County Highway Department's annual Christmas party. No, for the annual infrastructure and improvement program. Supervisor Robel.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move for Resolution 259-032018.
Been moved and seconded. Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the figure at the top of this resolution, the $5,070,000, is that the actual number that's going to be bonded for here? I'm looking on what looks like page 69 of 134, and I'm looking at a figure of $4,820,000. Is that the number?
Go ahead, Vicki.
I can explain that. On this page, that's the one project, and $4,177,000 will be bonded for that. If you go to 2 pages after, there's another project for $100,000. And that one is the material storage bins, and the next page would show you the parking lot resurfacing for human services for an additional $100,000. So altogether, we'd be bonding for $4,377,000. And the remainder comes from the state.
Say those numbers again, please.
Oh, sure. So for the main projects, where it equals $4,820,000, of that, $4,177,000 will be bonded, and state and federal funding will be $643,000. If you go 2 pages over, the Highway Department material storage bins, that project's $100,000, and that's all bonded. And the last page is the human services parking lot resurfacing for, $150,000, and all bonded as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll vote by our iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. That is passed. Resolution number 260, declare April 2018 as National County Government Month in Winnebago County. Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for adoption of 260-032018. Just very briefly, this came up, as I said before, at our NACO Regional Conference North Central. It's National County Government Month next month. Other counties are doing a lot more than we are doing. I think by luck we are doing some things, like Health Department's having some tours, the Veteran Services having tours. I've talked to Supervisor Schneider about maybe tweaking the scholarship thing, so maybe instead of May, we have it announced in April. I think next year I'm looking forward to maybe better planning this and do more activities. I think people should know what their county government does. I think they don't really know what it does. And I think we should do every effort to try to inform. And the things we can do this year, what do other counties do around this nation? They go out to the schools and other things to inform about the county government. I think that we should do. So I'm going to say the last thing about this resolution is a template. The only thing I added was one of the whereas clause. You had to tell what your county does. And I ran it by the three people who were with me, Supervisor Snyder, Rautenschlager, and Keller, and they agreed. So I hope this is approved, and I hope that maybe we do more to promote national county government in the future.
Okay, it was moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 26103, 2018, proclaim April 3rd, 2018 as National Services Recognition Day in Winnebago County. Supervisor Eisen.
Chairman, I move for approval of resolution number 261032018.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 26203, 2018, establish compensation for Winnebago County Sheriff. Supervisor Singstock. Supervisor Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I may be speaking too early to this, but attached to this on the back is something from Barry Busby, the coroner. Is my paper attached incorrectly? Should I wait?
We'll get the Busbys when we come to it.
It's attached to the sheriff's thing. Should I wait until? Well, mine is.
Well, somehow it got goofed up. But anyways, we're on the sheriff's budget.
I know,
at the
on the back page of the sheriff's, I have the thing about Barry Busby.
Okay, take that off of there.
And wait till, okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
Supervisor Farley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Mike, if you could. You still here? Oh, I'm sorry. Has somebody brought it forward? Well, let's do that. Who's chairman of that committee?
I was Supervisor Singstock.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I move to approve resolution number 262032018.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
Now do I have the floor?
Now you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, in preparing this document for the three offices that are voting tonight to increase compensation for, you did an analysis and comparing what our, in this case, sheriff currently makes in this county compared to other counties. And if I'm reading this correctly, it is your opinion that the increase for the first year should be a 3%, should I say, catch-up salary, and then 1.5 on top, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I want to address the 3%. And I'm going to support this, but I look for at least equality in principle across all employees in this county, including hourly. Are you going to do the same analysis when it comes to giving our hourly employees compensation? Are you going to say, I'm going to check with the other counties and see what our highway workers are making so I can compare that? Or are we just doing it for these three offices?
They're elected
That's
officials.
my question to you.
We essentially did that with the compensation study. We did hire a consultant in 2016 and spent a lot of time looking at what wage rates are for various positions in other counties. And so it's a little bit more complicated analysis where you have various steps and ranges to work your way through. But that's essentially what we were trying to accomplish with that compensation study in large part.
Okay, so you're saying initially that was done during that, when we changed over and went to that new process of awarding compensation. Okay, and now, now you're simply catching up with this for our elected officials?
Well, the elected officials work a little different because they don't have a range. It's just one salary and there's
Yes,
no
yes, I
increases
understand.
and so forth. So, but I think it's a reasonably consistent methodology, and it would be my goal to keep that consistent. It's
Okay.
also consistent with the methodology we've used for the other elected officials 2 years ago and for these elected officials 4 years ago. So I wanted to keep using essentially the same methodology on an
Okay.
ongoing basis.
For the benefit of the supervisors, that was my concern, is that the method of achieving this is uniform throughout all employees in this county, and that's what I'm hearing.
As well as we can.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Supervisor Norton?
A couple of questions. First of all, have these been budgeted in this year's budget for these salary increases, especially 2019? Or, yeah, well, that's for future budgets, right? Okay.
These salaries would take effect early in January 2019 when the new term takes effect, so they will be included in the budget for 2019.
My second question is kind of related to what Supervisor Fari, what has been the average increase of the hourly employees in this county for the past 4 years?
I don't have a figure for the average increase for hourly employees. There have been a number of different types of pay increases that I haven't had a chance to put together at this point to give you an average.
At this moment, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move the amend to make a 2% increase across the board for 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. And I apologize, Sue, I don't have the monetary figures, but my motion would be have a 2% increase for each of the 4 years.
Okay, I didn't get a second. Back to the original resolution. We'll vote by our iPad.
Wait. Mr. Supervisor Launchler said he seconded.
Who did?
Supervisor Launchler.
Oh, I didn't hear him.
I think you need actual figures in there. I mean, you can't just say 2%. 2% of what? 2% from the previous year, 2% every year. You need actual figures in there, Mike, if you want to do this. If you want to take a break to figure that out, you can ask the board, the chairman to do that, but you need actual figures in there.
Supervisor Wingren?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a very important thing. The reason that we're doing it today, I believe, is because these three offices are up for election this year, and nomination papers can be circulated beginning April 15th, and therefore we need to act on this before that date. This has been an ongoing process by the P&F committee over the years, and Mike has headed up a group that has done an exceptional job, I think, in analyzing the pay, the annual salary, all the components that go into it. This is not an easy thing at all. A lot of thought and effort went into this. If you just sort of pull a number out of the air, just is, I think, irresponsible and insult to the office holders here and potential office holders there. So I strongly urge you not to I'll use the professional term, monkey with this.
Supervisor Bender?
I actually had Mike get me a wage average for last year for every salary group that there was, and the lowest for the group averaging 11 was 1.63, and the highest salary anybody received last year was 2.20 as a group. I don't see any 4.5% in this category. So, you know, I don't know. It's like we're going to be giving them 2% more than the average person got in Winnebago County. It's truly up to the board, but I mean, it's considerably more than we gave anybody in 2018. And I doubt we'll be able to give anybody else a 4.5% raise in 2019.
Supervisor Wingren?
Thank you. I apologize for talking again, but one thing I forgot that I think is very important, and that is these elected office holders did not get a raise since the last time this board acted on this 4 years ago. So their raise, I believe, is that true? Or was there a built-in raise?
In the previous schedule, there was a raise provided every year. It has to be decided now, but then there are 4 raises.
So the last time we
voted
made
on
a
all at
decision
once.
was 4 years ago?
That's correct.
Yes. All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll vote by our iPad. Oh, Supervisor Rowe, I'm sorry.
I'm still here.
Watch this
I would
delay.
like to comment on the percentages that were just brought up by Supervisor Bender. And I think I heard you correctly. You were quoting what hourly people had gotten for percentage increases versus what this is. And you stated that nobody got a 4.5? Right. And I think what Mike said initially is this is not a total of a 4.5% increase. It's a 3% pay adjustment plus 1.5% salary increase. Is that correct, Mike?
Well, yes, and what Supervisor Bender is referring to is a list by pay grade of the average increases. So and that's just the merit pay. So there are individual employees that got larger increases than that, perhaps not 4.5%, but close to 3%. But it's also the case that we've had other forms of raises, in particular the catch-up raises, which are really the market adjustments that we're making as a result of the compensation study. So I'm pretty sure there were raises last year, or this year in January, of over 10% for individual employees. I think perhaps close to 15% in terms of catch-up raises, where their current pay ranges were found to be below the market rates.
We're on resolution 260. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we're setting these salaries for the constitutional officers, the Human Resources Director has given us a list of what comparable department heads receive in pay for a target minimum. Remember, when we're setting this salary, we are setting it for whomever is the candidate that wins the next sheriff election. So we're not doing this for our seasoned sheriff who may deserve a merit raise. Certainly the responsibilities of the sheriff in all the departments that he has responsibility for compares to the target salary of the Director of Human Services and our corporation councils. Certainly, he supervisors more employees than the Director of Human Services and the Director of Finance. So I think you will find that not only is the amounts that are recommended comparable to elected officials in comparably sized counties, it's also comparable to responsibilities of department heads within the county. So I would urge my colleagues to approve this. Thank you.
Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Number of years ago, our Parks Department had a gentleman working there. One heck of a good worker. He made him up to assistant director. And there was a job opening in Outagamie County as the director. And he went over there. He got the job. You know what's even more amazing? He started out making more money than the present director of Parks at that particular time. So you figure, if we want to keep our employees, unless you want to have a rotation, you almost have to support this. Otherwise, every year, 2 or 3, you're going to be replacing some of our employees, you know. And you look at all the experience and everything that these people have in each department, I don't think we can afford to lose them every X years. So I would urge you to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Bender.
I guess I just go back to the last person that left at the highway department. He got a job in Wapaka for $5,000 more than we're paying him. If we're going to increase everybody's salary to what the average is, we're not gonna be able to afford them, because basically, Mark said we don't have that kind of money. So the highway department is losing records amount of people. They lost 4 people in the last year, mainly due to wages. And we're not doing nothing. They reposted that superintendent's job at the same as it was last time. We didn't increase the salary on there to try to lure somebody over here. So it's like, if we're gonna do it for these, then we ought to do it for everybody.
The county, the Wapaka County Chair, I serve on another committee with him, and he thanked me for training all his new people. We'll vote by our iPad. Oops, Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was my question. I didn't think we had voted on the amendment that Supervisor Norton, have we voted on that?
No.
I was confused because a lot of people were talking about the original resolution. I just wanted to make sure we vote yea or nay on the right resolution.
You're right. Huh? He was supposed to come up with the proper numbers.
My opinion is you need numbers to put in there for each year. Not just 2%, you need numbers, actual numbers.
Larry seconded it later.
Nobody's got a calculator.
Okay, well, you want to withdraw your motion?
I'll withdraw it.
Okay.
No, it's up to you to put those numbers in. It's not up to me or Mr. Albrecht or Mike Collard. It's up to you to say what the numbers are you want in your motion. It's not 2%. You have to put actual dollar figures in.
No, so I can go back to the original.
Did he withdraw?
He says he would withdraw it.
I'll withdraw it. Hold on.
So you're gonna vote on this then?
No, he withdrew it.
Well, you have to vote on the resolution.
Yes, we're going to vote on the resolution, establish compensation for the Winnebago County Sheriff. We'll vote by our, pardon? On the original resolution. We're going to vote by your iPad, vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. That is passed. Resolution number 263-03-2018, establish compensation for the Winnebago County Clerk of Courts. Supervisor Singstock.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve resolution number 263-03-2018.
It's been moved and seconded. Supervisor Gabbard. Okay, we'll vote by our iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove.
Who's this for? No.
That is passed. Resolution 264-03-2018, establish compensation for the Winnebago County Coroner. Supervisor Singstock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve resolution number 264-03-2018.
Been moved and seconded. Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I received the letter that was attached from Coroner Barry Busby last month, and I was highly insulted by the letter when I received it last month, and I don't feel any better about it today. the examples that he gave seem to be meant to shock us into action, and was the purpose of listing fatal injuries, decapitations, and beaten up babies meant to drive us to a certain conclusion. There are plenty of people who deal with grief of survivors, including doctors, nurses, social workers, clergy, volunteer fire department. He's not the only one who does that. He also gave comments about compensation for Marathon County Coroner and Racine County Coroner. I called those counties where Coroner Busby has requested this year $22,000 in mileage. Marathon County's coroner has requested $1,000 in mileage. And Racine County, he mentions that he did this declaration in 2010. They haven't even had a coroner for 30 years. They have a medical examiner, but not a coroner. So these numbers don't really make any sense in terms of what he's comparing them to, because they're different positions. And I was just, the decapitations and the beaten up babies just really turned me off, as though this is a reason why he deserves more money. A lot of people see these things. He's not the only one. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll vote by our iPad. Vote aye if you approve.
I'll vote for what he's got here.
No if you disapprove. That is passed. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, roll. Huh? Which one?
We've got 265.
265.
One more. We've got one more. Here, you want it?
Resolution 26503, 2018. Designate the week of April 9th to the 13th, 2018 as Work Zone Awareness Week in Winnebago County. Supervisor Robel. No, Ken.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move that we adjourn until Tuesday.
No. This resolution that was on our desk.
Oh. Okay.
So you're going to bring it forward?
What was that one?
Resolution 26503, 2018. Give it to him.
Yeah, I'll move for the approval of Resolution 265032018.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a brief couple of comments. First of all, most of you know I don't live in Oshkosh. I live in Neenah. But I would like to recognize the Oshkosh North Division I basketball team that won state championship. The second item I have, we talked earlier about cybersecurity and so forth. Again, I'm not going to be here, so I can't bring this forth, but I would hope that we would get a report from the county clerk in the not-too-distant future with respect to voting security. About 6 weeks ago, there were 7 states that were designated that may have been compromised in the 2016 election. Wisconsin was one of them. Yesterday, that number of states was raised to 25 states. The last comments I have, bear with me, please. I got involved in county government 12 years ago. I happened to be scanning through the channels and I ran across Winnebago County on Channel 2, and this board was doing their budget. I got interested. I tried to contact my supervisor. I have to admit, I lived on this street a block away from my supervisor for 30 years, I didn't know who he was. And he didn't have an email address. So I searched for someone on the website and said, who can I talk to ask for advice? Who can I talk to bounce questions off? Who can help me here? I found an individual. Thank God it was the first one that I emailed. And I got responses to all my questions. I was very happy, very pleased. So for the next 20 months, before I ever ran for election, for the next 20 months, I sat in the back of this room. I wish Mike Brooks were here tonight because he will attest to the fact that I sat next to him at most of those meetings. For 20 months, I sat there and I listened and I listened and I listened. In that almost 2 years, I went to innumerable committee meetings, became more and more interested, was finally convinced after 20 months to run for election. I was fortunate enough to be elected, was elected 5 times after that or 4 times after that. Going back to the individual that helped me from the beginning and really became my mentor, somebody that I could go to, and I suggest to all new supervisors, find somebody like that, latch on to him. It was invaluable for me to have information from somebody who'd been on the board for 20 plus years. I will never forget, I will always appreciate the advice, the mentoring that I got from Supervisor Bill Wingren. My last statement, and I promise to shut up. In the last 12 years, Bill Wingren has become the best friend I've ever had in my life. Thank you, Bill.
Supervisor Robo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move that we adjourn until April 17th at 6:00 p.m.
Thank you. We are adjourned.